Why did you start to take in the children?
Over 21 years, 28 young people went through our hands.
Why did you do that?
I love children.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. This is Fundie Fridays and I am Jen. Here on my channel I talk about different aspects of Christian fundamentalism while I do my makeup. Today I'm going to be talking about another highly requested topic, the family. Note, this should not be confused with The Other Family, which is a Netflix documentary about the Fellowship Foundation, which is a whole other thing that I will talk about in another episode. No, the family that I'm going to be talking about today is run by Anne Hamilton-Bryne in the late 60s in Melbourne, Australia. This group also went by the name the Great White Brotherhood and the Santanaketan Park Association. Excuse my pronunciation. Could not find it said out loud on the internet. The family is known for their leader's truly bizarre antics and for the many children that they abducted, drugged, and abused. So let's begin. The story really begins with the meeting of Anne Hamilton-Bryne and Rayner Johnson in 1963. Note that at the time her name was Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards, but from here on out we'll refer to her as the name that everyone knows her by. Rayner Johnson was a physicist from England. He developed an interest in parapsychology, which is the generally debunked pseudoscience psychic phenomena. He owned a property called Santanaketan in the Dandenong Mountains of Australia, where he would host meetings about philosophy and religion along with Anne, who was a Siddha yoga teacher at the time. This meeting place would soon become the headquarters of their cult. Anne was a very strange woman. For example, she had undergone several cosmetic surgeries to make herself appear younger. Whether despite or because of her strange behavior, her followers found her to be charismatic and had incredible powers of persuasion. She used this influence to encourage her followers to treat her like a god and worship her and do her bidding. From early in the family's development, Anne was in total control of everyone and would have members leave their families to remarry people she told them to and have children for the cult.
Anne personified this sort of idealized mother figure, the perfect mother or the great mother.
I had been teaching yoga quietly because that was my master's last utterance. I had to start it. That was divine orders. That was my mission. That was the divine vision.
She taught this mishmash of Eastern religions involving endless wheel of life and death and reincarnation, and the bad karma builds up and up and up, and it's a bit like a toxic debt of a nation. It's actually so big you can never pay it off, so you have to have somebody to cancel it out for you. And she cancels all of the karma at the initiation ceremony.
In 1978, she married her husband Bill, and somebody mentioned that they reminded them of the Howells from Gilligan's Island, and that's all I can see now.
Say something.
Love you, darling.
Love you to the children.
For the children. Oh, I'm going to spend a month with them.
Lovely.
Just a month with those babies of ours who were so tiny and they were growing up.
You love them, don't you, Daddy?
I do love them, darling. I do.
And I love you, darling.
Love you, darling.
Now, the actual religious beliefs of this cult are kind of all over the place. Members studied the texts of Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, among several others. They also dabbled in the teachings of popular gurus of the time like Sri Chinmoy, Meher Baba, and Rajneeshpuram, who you might recognize from the documentary Wild Wild Country. Anne told members that she was a reincarnation of Jesus Christ and a living God. They were also taught that Jesus was a great master who came to Earth, and that Buddha and Krishna were also enlightened beings who came down to Earth to help the humans.
Lisa, what are you doing in there?
Praying to Buddha, Jesus, SpongeBob. There's no time to be picky.
Perhaps we should help.
Skriller.
But I'm going to be honest with you here, the beliefs of this group are the least peculiar thing about the cult. Yes, folks, it manages to get even worse from here. At the time, the family was huge and had over 500 members. And Anne was estimated to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, thanks to her recruitment of individuals with wealth and status. The cult had several properties spread all over the world, including in England and New York. And Anne had a vast network of people with useful skills and trades that she would utilize to get things done. She had several psychologists psychologists who would provide her with LSD and psilocybin to drug members, and she had doctors who would tranquilize vulnerable mothers during labor and take their babies from them before they even had a chance to say goodbye. Even the nurses and social workers at these hospitals were working with the family to traffic babies back to Anne, as well as forging birth certificates and adoption papers. And keep in mind, this was back when adoption laws were already kind of lax anyway, so these poor women did not stand a chance.
They were stolen children, phony adoptions that were organised by sect members who were senior social workers in the system. It was outrageous how they were collected.
In the late 60s, there wasn't supporting mothers' pension and things like that. And particularly if you came from a religious family, it was still a great shame to have a kid out of wedlock. Well, my biological mother was made to sign an adoption form. And then during my birth, a pillow was put over her head. She was given major tranquilizers. And as soon as I was born, I was taken away instantly. She wasn't even allowed to look at me.
Anne told the adopted children that they were hers biologically, and she even bleached all their hair blonde so that they would look like siblings. And she did this to further her role in trying to create a master race.
Under the influence of LSD, Auntie Anne had this vision that she's got to collect all these children from birth, because one day there's going to be either World War III or natural disasters galore where most of the population of the world's going to perish. She was preparing us for, when the time happens, to re-educate the world. What's left of it.
This is the moment of rebirth upon a new planet. We've received the call, and great things will be done.
Would it be in bad taste to throw this picture up here? I'm just as disappointed in myself as you are. Not only did Anne obtain children through illegal adoptions, but members of the cult also have babies and then send them to the main property to be raised communally. Once the children were brought back into the cult's fold, they were subjected to strange and physically intense daily routines. This included getting up at 5 a.m., daily weigh-ins that would affect how much food they were allowed to eat that day, yoga, meditating, schoolwork, and water torture.
They'd put a bucket here, and then one of the aunties would help, and then you'd have to kneel down, and then they'd push your head into the bucket and hold it for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, then bring it out again and say, "Did you do it? Did you do it?" Say, "No." Back in again.
Water torture?
Yeah. Because Anne had said better to be drowned than a liar, basically.
Anne was not around most of the time, and instead she would be out traveling the world with her husband. But don't worry, she made arrangements so that the child abuse could continue in her absence. Female members called aunties would raise the children, beat them, starve them, lock them away for days at a time, force feed them drugs like acid, magic mushrooms, as well as psychiatric drugs like Valium, Halidol, and Thorazine.
I was put to bed in the guest room upstairs at Byrne, and then Anne gave you the LSD, and I was put under LSD for a very long period of time. And it was a couple of weeks at least.
I just flipped out into some sort of psychotic state.
This led to the development of lifelong traumas for the children subjugated to the cult's practices. In an excerpt from Rayner Johnson's private diaries, we learn why the children were treated this way. It amounted to this: a group of children, some already born here, some yet to be born, were brought together, fostered, and adopted and trained from the beginning of their lives as perfect conditions as could be provided. Their health was meticulously supervised, and all aspects of their welfare and education were considered and provided for. Before they came, it was known by the master when and where and to what parents they were coming, and what qualifies they potentially brought with them from past lives. It is safe to say that the future age will see them, unknown though they are, as custodians and continuers of the work their master has set going in many parts of the world. The children were taught to fear the outside world and lie to authority figures. There was even a tunnel that the children were trained to hide in if the cops ever came knocking.
I'll show you where we were hidden.
Sarah showed me the house at Lake Eildon and the secret tunnel where they were forced to hide when visitors called.
There's a little hole, which was...
Through here?
Yeah, thing that covered it, little picture sort of thing. Well, it's got a little piece of cloth now. And we'd all pile through here.
Through that hole?
Yeah.
28 of you in there?
Up to 28, yeah.
That is disgusting. That is abhorrent abuse.
We'd just be absolutely still. We were very well disciplined anyway. We were used to not moving a muscle on pain of punishment. Plus we were scared of the police, scared of the outside world. Because they said that if they found us, we'd get the blame and we'd be taken away and beaten in sacks.
And knock they did. In 1987, Sarah Hamilton-Bryne, one of Anne's adopted children, was kicked out of the cult for misbehavior. She ended up living with a nice family who actually encouraged her to talk to the authorities. On August 14th of that year, the property at Kai Lama was raided by the cops, and the children were removed. Anne and her husband fled to the U.S. to stay at their New York property for 6 years. Meanwhile, Operation Forest was being ran by the U.S., UK, and Australian governments. They worked together to investigate the family and have Anne and her husband extradited back to Australia. Anne was charged with conspiracy to defraud and to commit perjury by falsely registering the birth of 3 of the children. She was fined only $5,000 and faced 0 jail time for the abuse that she committed. There are 2 former members who have successfully sued for their mistreatment, but overall, Anne has gotten away scot-free. In 2009, she was interviewed by the program 60 Minutes. In the interview, you can tell that dementia has started to take its toll on her, and she can barely keep up with the lies that she's been telling.
Does it hurt you that she has tried to take her own life because of the way she was brought up?
Of course it does. It's not the way she was brought up, it's the way it handled, the way it went out. We didn't have everything that we needed. We had most things. I bought the bigger house because of the likes of little Sarah.
You thought a house would make everything right?
Well, I just thought it would give them more room.
People don't try and take their life because their house is too small.
You're not smart enough.
For what?
In your heart. What's in your heart is not the same.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that.
No, of course you don't.
They're saying that they were systematically abused and beaten. Why would the children say it if it wasn't true?
I don't believe they did.
They've said it.
You're getting your point over, that you're looking for trouble. It doesn't matter that you are.
I'm not looking for trouble. I'm not looking for trouble, I'm looking for the answers.
One day your children will betray you, and then you'll know how hard it is to just be yourself.
In June of 2019, she passed away in a nursing home. Surviving members of the cult are currently trying to figure out what to do with her $10 million estate. So that was a real fucking bummer, huh? Obviously, justice was not served in this case, and Anne's victims are now all adults, with several of them having committed suicide as a result of the trauma that they went through. I can't imagine the absolute torture that these people had to go through. And honestly, I'm glad the bitch is dead. She was obviously mentally disturbed for several decades, and her most loyal followers protected her and let her get away with the most heinous crimes imaginable. If you like this video, I have more resources in the info box below. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, subscribe to my Patreon if you're feeling generous. The bell does not dismiss you. I do. I think it's time for official Fundie Fridays fan club time. Andrea M, Ashley D, Dina P, Kate B, Kayla V, Kozolotl, Kimberly A, Christy S, Sarah R, The Myth, and Turduckenrath. Thank you guys for being patrons, and if you haven't already, remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button, and have a nice day.
Monsters and Miscues is a D&D podcast for anyone who likes goofs, grand adventures, fun, and inclusivity. Join Austin, Alex, Lane, Justin, Megan, and Zach every Sunday as they try to save the world from a bonkers cult at monstersmisscues.com, monstersandmisscues.com, or wherever you get your podcast.